Welcome back to the Real Me podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be giving you my experience of the past week. And in this video, I am specifically talking about going to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. That I was there from last Sunday up until this Saturday. And I'm going to break down how the experience goes. Now, this is to understand the story of this, you need to watch I recommend that you watch the, my hospital experience, A Living Hell episode, as I go into a lot of details in the episode about that experience. And then also the very, very important one, being in the hospital, my Great Reset, because those two podcasts are going to be explaining a lot. I'm going to be reinforcing some things, but I'm not going to be repeating exactly what I said in those episodes. I don't think that this one is going to be as long as the other episodes that I did, because I went into a lot in those episodes. Now, some of the details I will be getting into this are a little bit inappropriate and personal and private. So I'll try to phrase them in a way where I'm not overexposing the details that I want to keep private. Because I think that there's something to be said about having healthy boundaries in social media and not just overexposing all your stuff out there. So I want to honor what I feel comfortable saying, what I feel comfortable doing, and I don't want to be afraid to share the uncomfortable stuff with you, because I am, who I am, and I'm going to share whatever I want to on this podcast. And this is literally the behind-the-scenes podcast of me sharing my life, my insights, my thoughts, my experiences about things as I go through life, and it's about where I started to where I am now to where I end. That is the whole trajectory, and I am not getting rid of a single episode in the Real Me podcast, because that shows the story. So, I'm so glad I started this, because let's say I make a Cosmic Sky podcast video, and this is something I just really want to get off my chest and talk about it, but I'm making that other video, so it helps me to share it here, so that I can then deliver you the video that is more informational, that is more professional than these videos. So these are the behind the scenes authentic videos where I may process things, or I may share the clarity of what I have been through. Although I did make a promise to myself, like if I feel really, really emotional, then I will, wait, until I'm feeling a little bit easier about certain things, before coming on. I mean, I said that in my privacy podcast. I doubt that anything really is going to happen. If I get really, really emotional, I might just wait it out. Yeah, that's what I said in that video, and I intend to keep that promise to myself. So that's what I'm going to say here and now, because I won't have the clarity when I'm in such a high emotional state. If I ever get into a high emotional state, then I need time to just rest and recharge. And then when I'm just in a better, more calm, neutral state, then I can come on and do this podcast. So that's what I meant in that video by just waiting it out and giving it time. If you see that privacy podcast episode, it was very, very vulnerable and humble episode to film. And it took a lot of backbone and courage to do that episode. I'm so glad that I did. So anyway, this is behind the scenes stuff in this podcast. So if you want to know the full story of this, go see those other podcast episodes. Now, this episode comes off of being in the hospital I was in the hospital from December the 28th of last year to January 16th of this year. a long time. A little bit under a month. I mean, it was long, and it felt like it was never going to end, like I was never going to get out of there, and I was depressed, and the only thing that got me through was those cooking shows, and that was what made it as nostalgic as it did. But it was rough, and it felt like forever. That experience lasted forever, and when I got back on solid foods for the second time, that's when things started to shift. That's when I started to feel better, and my mental state got better, and from then on, 2026 was a very, very good year. It just so happened to start in the middle of January, and not earlier at the beginning of the year. So when I was in the hospital, the doctor put a request and sent over my medical files to Mayo Clinic. However, I asked one of the doctors, the doctor who didn't make the best first impression by telling me that that I was going home the day on January, let's see, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 1, 2, 3, 4, January, can't remember if it was the 5th or the 6th, one of those days. Anyway, he told me that I was going home, and he was very, very happy that I was going home, and then he didn't look at the results, and then he just said, oh, it doesn't look too good, and we have to go in for a, and this is the detail that I'm going to give to you. Okay, if you're uncomfortable with these details, then you can always hop off. I had to get a colonoscopy, because the main issue with my health has been my gut, my constipation, and my bowels. That is the focus of this episode. That is the focus of my whole experience being in hospitals, and this whole visit is about Mayo. Going to Mayo, and trying to begin to deal with the issue head on. So, basically, this doctor, came into the hospital one day, and he was very, very, enthusiastic about Mayo, and he would do everything he could to make sure that I would get over there in a, like a truck, like in an ambulance or some type of truck that would head over to, wherever the clinic was. And then I asked him, when I had the voice, when I had my, repetitive, voice of cursing in my head, I asked him, when am I going to get to go to Mayo? And he said very, very clearly, and I quote, as soon as a bed is available. And they were full. There were no beds available at Mayo at the time, because every bed was taken. They just didn't have room for me. And so what ended up happening was on January 10th, I think it was. I may be wrong. I think no, January 6th. They rejected me. Mayo rejected me because I was in better condition at the time, and they didn't really have any beds, and I didn't necessarily need to go there. And the fact that I was really enthusiastic about going to Mayo and excited to go there just proved that I didn't need to go there, because I wasn't sick enough and it wasn't serious enough for me to actually go there. Okay. Now, before I even go on, I just want to say that a video popped into my YouTube feed last night, which was talking about, which showed a button in my settings that I did not check, and apparently YouTube thinks my videos have inappropriate language in them, inappropriate words in them, and so for the longest time, from the moment I started up to now, I didn't check that box off. And so thank goodness I saw that video, because it could make the channel growth a lot faster. It could speed things along. So I hope to see steady growth over time of the channel now that I've checked that box. And I will also be doing a little trick with putting the video in categories when I post them, because apparently that is very, very important. The category that you post in, really, really affects the popularity. I had no idea about that until I saw the video. So anyway, I digress. I thought I might just interject that. So, the fact that, I wasn't sick enough to go to Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic, by the way, is the number one hospital in the world for dealing with, well, in my case, with all kinds of issues, but in dealing with bowel and constipation issues. They are number one. They are experts. They have, all the fancy equipment. They've done the tests. They have their stuff together. They have it all together. And they've seen the worst of the worst when it comes to bowel issues. So, I was in very, very good hands, and I would have been if I were to be in the hospital, and I was kind of, waiting. So instead of just waiting around for them to finally call, like, say, hey, we have a bed available, the GI doctor came in one day and said, well, you were actually rejected. And it's a good thing that I knew that at the time, because if I knew that I was rejected January 6th, when I was in very, very, very bad condition. I was bloated. I was really, really, just constipated and going through it tough. It would have made the whole situation at that time incredibly stressful. Incredibly stressful for me. It would have really, really affected me in a very, very negative way, and put me in a negative, very, very negative state of being. Let me just get the window open so that I can see outside. So I'm not just looking at, it's very, very sunny and nice out here. So it's almost mid-April, and tourist season's gonna start soon. So, if you haven't seen your Uranus and Gemini horoscope yet, I did put those videos out. My 12 sign videos are my most popular videos, and I'm glad they are, because I have reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that because I've gone into it in other videos. But you can go see those videos. Those are available for you to see. I do have to get creative with the information because of what, the information about Uranus and Gemini. And so I had to think out of the box when it comes to delivering you 12 sign horoscopes. So, all right. So it would have made the situation so stressful, so difficult, so incredibly tough. And it was already tough already, didn't need that extra stress putting on it. So, she said you can go in as an outpatient. She said if you're really in serious health condition or something like that, like if you're really sick, then they want you, but they don't need you if you're not, feeling the most sick. Like if it's an emergency, they will bring you in. But if it can wait, it can wait, because they're less, like I was on a list of probably many, many people, many, many patients, and I couldn't get into it. And so, my mom was in the room and I was in the room, and so that was that. Shortly after, we got a phone call from this person at Mayo who called about, verifying some information, about, just about me and getting testing. And the whole week was just testing things. And I'm going to get into the individual tests and how they went. In summary, though, you have those experiences where you're so anxious about it. You think it's going to be the serious Teflon, very, very dogmatic kind of, like it scares the daylights out of you, and it's going to be, so tough and so alarming and so threatening and so startling and so difficult. I mean, it was not too bad. I thought it was not going to be a walk in the park, and it was pretty close to just a walk in the park. It was kind of a breeze, because it wasn't very tough at all. And I'm saying that not hearing the results from the test that I took. So I do want to insert that here, and, for you to take that into consideration. Monday, I will receive the results back. I'll have a meeting with somebody who'll talk to me about the results from those tests. And I'll get that information. I'm very, very nervous about that. Hopefully it's not too concerning, but I don't know. So, yeah. So let me just start at the very, very beginning. So we left Sunday, April 12th. Went in the car. I listened to my Real Me podcast. I listened to things on there. Got my voice, of course, going to a new public place. I got my voice very, very, obviously, I get the voice when I go to new places. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're like, what are you talking about? Go see my video. I have actually 2 videos. Both of them I will not be taking down, including the one which I show a real-time experience of trying to do a video when I have the voice. Like it's a real raw thing, and if you're willing to see that, then you by all means can. But I would see the voice, the dust storm, the dust bowl. The voice in my head that ruins my life, a dust bowl in my mind. I think that's what it's called. And I go into detail about the problems that this voice has been giving me. It came, very, very obviously. It has this kind of cadence, da 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 da. And I'm not going to say the words because, it's kind of a, swear words. And very, very sensitive to criticism, very, very sensitive to external words and phrases and events. Things need to be quiet, things need to be calm, things need to be serene with the voice. There can't be too much talking with it. So I got it, not surprisingly. We got there, checked into the hotel. My dad was speaking to somebody who I thought this was somebody that he knew at work or something, or an extended family member, but no, it was just a random person watching golf in the the lobby room. So that wasn't too eventful. I shouldn't say it. So these things are going to be rather trivial and minor, so just bear this in mind here. Because this was not as extreme as my 2 previous experiences. If you want a more interesting story, I would go to those 2 hospital videos. Because if you want to hear my full story on this, I did do this podcast episode for reasons. If you're interested, you can hear that. So, checked into our room, and this hotel is different from other hotels because in the room you had, you'd walk into the room. Picture this. You're walking to a room, there'd be a hanger to your right, and then a desk that I sat in and did some things. Didn't record the videos the podcast episodes that I recorded over there, and I did record this because I had the time. There's a couch right next to it. Then you're looking straight at the window, and then there's a TV. And then there's a kitchen off to your left side. And then diagonally, to your left, there is the bedroom with the 2, bedrooms, the bathroom with the sink over to the left side, and the other things, over to the right, and then like the bathroom with the shower and the toilet as just a room unto itself, and the sink was separate from that. So that's what the bedroom looked like. it was, meant for a very, very special stay. That was, we were extended, and my, family was very, very willing to invest in that room so that I could, do this. So that worked out very, very nicely. So we checked in, very, very, minor, details with, checking in and everything like that. I got my stuff out, settled things down. We were basically cooked every night in that kitchen. We didn't go out to eat until, just today, which I'll kind of get into at the very, very end as a kind of bonus point. But I was just doing my thing with downloading videos off my, because I'm currently taking videos from my original channel and posting over to my, main channel. So if somebody says like, ooh, it's 2026 and not, this year that you're talking about, well, it's a video from my original channel that I'm posting over so that I can have all the videos on one channel. I can make clips out of them. So when I downloaded the videos, oh my gosh, the internet was slow. The internet was very, very slow in that hotel room. It took forever for things to load. For a while, it took forever for videos to upload. And the internet was not the greatest. So that really, that first day was like, I don't want to be here. And I just want to go home, and when it's going to be over, and I don't like the fact that the internet's not working. So that night I had, was like chicken with, that my mom made. Chicken, carrot, and then, rice-a-roni, rice pilaf, a very, very simple dinner that first night. So what we were going to do is we were going to just preview the building so that we wouldn't be so alarmed, and when we try to be so disoriented and, try to find our way around that next morning when I had the appointment very, very early in the morning, April 13th. So we went there in order to get a sense of the building and get a sense of where we're going before the big appointment the next morning. The big, day in April 13th was, I think, the biggest day out of them all. So we walked, we drove, we parked in a parking garage in the hotel, but we rode around the, got in the parking garage, got out, walked the stairs, did all this, walked in the elevators, whatever we did. And then we walked into the main, entrance for the hospital. And we were entering this hallway that just went on and 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 didn't seem to end. Like it was a long hallway. And it's like, can I have this? Because if I was little, I would be so into it. And the smell was very, very interesting. And it was like, it was like I was walking into a space station, into, like a spaceship, almost, into something like a building on another, like, advanced planet, like is that kind of experience, like, oh wow, this building already is giving me the first impression of something big, and this is probably telling me like these people are really, really experts and skilled at what they're doing. So we walked down that hallway, walked a little, in another hallway, kind of went back, and then we went to the store, bought a couple of things, and then, we basically winded down that evening and then went to bed that night. The next morning, we woke up the day of April 13th, Monday, April 13th, and we went to the hospital. We were going to walk on the elevators. And there was a notice on the elevator in the actual hotel room. The elevator was kind of slow in the hotel. That said, if you're going into Mayo Clinic, don't bring any weapons, because some people apparently are not right-minded and their minds are not entirely there, so they would bring weapons. So they want to ensure that it's the safest facility, that no one's going to bring any weapon that's going to potentially harm anybody in there. So they want to ensure that. And so the speaker kept going kind of several times, like saying, if you're coming in here, don't bring any weapons. So then we went on, the elevators, or we didn't go on the elevators because, the elevators didn't load, so to speak. We couldn't get into the elevators. So we went down the stairs, and we went through that hallway once again. And then we went up to the ninth floor, I believe. The gastroenterologist floor, I believe it's called. That's the area. It's the gastro. I just want to refer to it as the gastro floor because that's the area of concern for me in my health. So we walked up there, got out of the elevator, kind of carpet with the design beneath us, kind of looking out to the city. It wasn't a city. It wasn't just, I thought it would be just aside from city, but it was within the city. We were turning left, and then we entered this this really elegant looking waiting room. And I never seen such a more elegant, refined waiting room in all my life. For, as you walked in, there would be these walls with brown with a design on them, and then a kind of lighting, and it was a very, very big room. And then there was someone at the desk, a receptionist. We signed off on a couple of things, signed some papers, checked in, did the normal kind of stuff. She said, "Happy belated birthday," knowing it was my birthday very, very recently. So kind of had a blonde hair, glasses. Kind of looked like one of the Astro Twins, if you've ever seen the Astro Twins, which I'll be listening to their podcast sometime. The Astro Twins, she kind of resembled Ophelia and Tally Edith, or Fire or Tally Edith, that's the Astro Twins. So, anyway, we sat down. I'm going to tell you the whole story of how this went. It didn't take long at all for the nurse to come out of the doors. And actually, what was happening was, there was beautiful, soft piano music, very, very relaxing music, just what you need when you're going into an appointment, just something to sort of calm you down and relax you. And my dentist's office for getting my braces on and off, they played this really annoying country music. So I'm glad that they have really soft music. It's really, really refined, very, very, up in the charts. Okay. So, we heard names being called on the loudspeaker, and I was thinking to myself, oh, they're going to draw attention to me. But surprisingly, the nurse who came in, who came out, just called my name. And I actually think I went to Mayo before, back in 2009. Specifically, my mom found the date June 8th, 2009, for my eyes, because I was having issues with my eyes. And so I was there for a time, and then I went into Mayo for that, and I stayed in a medium hotel room with median headboards, a median room. So we stayed there at that then, and then, now, we're back here. So she kind of, was very, very young, was kind of blonde hair, kind of in a bun, very soft features, and so she called us back. We went back to the room where we were sitting, where the first part of this was consulting with the doctor and talking about my whole medical history, and doing all that, before we even went into the tests. So we went into this room, very, very well done room. It had a typical, in a consult room, it has a bed which you lay on with pillows and a mattress. It almost looked like something out of a very, very well done room with well done lighting and everything. So then she came in and talked through some things. We asked questions about things about the first test, which I'll get into, which is going to be a very, very unpleasant detail, but it's not going to be so unpleasant. You're going to hear why. So she sort of talked to us about certain things. I'm not going to go into detail about what those were because I can't recollect that. But so then the very, very first doctor came into the room, and he was a like a Spanish, Latino, Mexican type, maybe South American doctor, something like that, Spanish doctor, came into the room, and we talked. We shared my medical history. We shared how, when I was little, I'm going to get into it here, because this is what it is, and, you're watching the Real Me podcast for a reason. This is real and raw authenticity, so you're here for what you came for. So, basically, when I was little, I kind of held in going to the restroom, not really, releasing it, and, holding it in, and doing all that and having problems when I was just an infant. And then so we talked about that. We talked about just we also brought in the OCD that I was experiencing, specifically with cleanliness when it comes to my hygiene in my my unpleasant area. And the fact that I've been very, very, obsessed over that and very, very anxious about that. And with what happened to me in 2017 when, when I, let's just say very, very pleasantly had an accident and I went home that day because of that. So that kind of set it off for me to become very, very anxious about how clean I was and taking care of myself and all that, with cleanliness and what have you. So we talked about that. We talked about which I described in detail in that being in the hospital December of 2025, when from the very beginning of December, I was in a very, very bad situation when it comes to going to the restroom, and I kind of was very, very liquidy when I went to the restroom. And the doctors thought it was something, but it was something else entirely. And I was actually I had an infection. And I do not remember the name of the infection. I am telling you honestly, if I didn't go to that hospital at the end of December, I'm just going to say, there is probably a chance that I wouldn't be alive today if I didn't go to that hospital. I mean, it was serious. It was a serious infection that I had with my, and there was a lot of uncertainties going to the hospital experience. A lot of, things up in the air, a lot of unknowns. I mean, wow, that was rough. And I do not want to go through that something again in my life, ever. But so, basically, I had, issues with, and thank goodness that I was at DMAC at the time and I was ending DMAC, and I'll be back there in the fall. So anyway, so excuse me, just had to clear my throat there. But so that experience in December that we talked about, where I had IBS, and I had, I believe IBS, and all these, symptoms and all these things going on. Ran a high fever. Had to go to the hospital because of that high fever. December 27th, I had it, and then it lasted until, the 28th, I went to the hospital. Had a high fever. Had that issue going on, medical issue. There was actually, stuff was coming out around the main issue, and there was some major, I'm going to use the word, because this is a real me podcast, stool kind of blocked up in there. So, we talked about that, discussed all that, the details of that. And then after we spoke about that, he had me, this is the real unpleasant part, so I'm going to try to cover up this. I laid down on the table, and he, trying to think of the best way I can phrase this to not be too revealing to you. How can I say this? Besides, did a test, where he just put gel in my, private area, and tried to, measure, all those kind of things, like, tried to measure, I think what happened was, there was something later, tried to look at the, colon to see what was going on there. That's what happened. That's what happened. So then he left, and then we waited for a time. Another American doctor who came in, who seemed to be the person who would take family very, very seriously and show up at a lot of family gatherings. Very, very, beard, very, very, foresty, very, rustic, very, very robust male personality, in appearance. So he came into the room, and he was going to ask some questions about my tests. He asked me if he could use an AI thing that would record what was saying. I just said it was fine. So anyway, he did that. So we talked about the details of it. And then, apparently there was this diet that, and the thing is, here's the thing that I want to throw in here. I was so worried that they would jump to surgery to fix this issue. But they didn't. Because they're Mayo. They have better solutions, and they have the resources. Instead, therapy. For working on the pelvic muscles, down in that area, and Gastro-Psychology, which is apparently a thing and something that you can, have. And I had a meeting with somebody. I'll get into that. Just where you talk about how your mind, like your mind is connected to your bowels, into your gut. Like your mind and your gut are very, very well connected. And your mind and the stress and the anxiety of going to the restroom does kind of affect, very, very much so, you going to the restroom. So those were solutions that I was like, oh wow, if that can be an option, I will take anything. I will take any solution. But I will not have another hospital experience with surgery. I went through a hell of an experience. December to January. I don't want to go through that again. And if I would, then it would be a very, very planned hospital stay where I would be there for as long. But anyway, kind of right now I'm feeling kind of bloated in my stomach talking to you. But anyway, because basically the whole time I was not on my medications, and so I've been kind of full with stuff, and maybe we'll get that out very slowly and surely. So today I just got back on my medications. So I'm feeling a little bloated right now, doing this kind of a little bit of a cramp feeling, but I will persist through that to do this. So that was the thing. And I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it. So talked about that, and then we talked about certain details, like what diet to be on, because I was on a low FODMAP diet after I got out of the hospital, which means no high in fiber foods, gluten-free foods, foods that are not have lactose or high in fructose. That's the kind of FODMAP diet that I was on. And he said, like, the Mediterranean diet would be the best diet for you to be on with this thing, which includes a lot of beans and a lot of vegetables. And, well, it's very, very hard. I live in the Midwest, and there's a lot of meat and potatoes and all that stuff. So it's, I don't know. We'll get to that on Monday. More details will be revealed on Monday of that experience. So, all right. So then, now, previously, before I even came to the hospital, my mom called somebody up at Mayo and asked if they could substitute the food item that they were using in a test that I would take, where I would eat that food. Because that food, I'm going to tell you right now, I absolutely hate and cannot stand eating alone. So, the guy said, unfortunately, and they put some, like, this chemical in it that would bind. Okay, I'm being cryptic here. Eggs. I absolutely hate eggs on their own. Well, we'll eat them with other things, but on their own, nope, not at all. So, and they would measure how the food would. They would measure how the food would go throughout my my gut and do all that. Or that was the plan, at least. So, I was very, very resistant and stubborn about that. I thought it was, I'll get into that later, and then I pulled an oracle card about it, and, said, like, look at the signs and follow your intuition, and if, I was very, very resistant to doing it, but I value my health so much that I was just willing to do it. But so anyway, we talked about that. 2 eggs of what it would, consisted of, bread, milk. Sounds very good, doesn't it? Trust me, it was the exact opposite of that. So, then on that particular day, I would be provided lunch by the Mayo. And the lunch would be a turkey sandwich, basically, which I had, which was not very, very good. But anyway, I'll get into that later. So, we looked at the schedule and said, okay, now we have the schedule. Now we know how to go through things. And I was surprised, like, wow, they don't really, like, there's a lot of free time in this vacation. I could actually do videos on, most of the days of this vacation, just the day that I went and the day that I came back, that I'm not doing videos. So, I didn't do any videos today, and I'm certainly not going to whip out my computer and, do that today. I'll do it tomorrow. Do another Cosmic Sky podcast episode tomorrow. But so, a lot of free time on the schedule. I'll kind of go through what happened as we went through. Basically, went back out of the room, and the nurse came in again, and we talked about the schedule. Went back out, and this was the very, very first test now. So we signed in, we would wait. The very, very first test was a clean out, basically. I hope that you won't be turned off by how specific I am being in this particular episode. There's a term for this, I don't know the medical term. Basically, I got an enema. I mean, that's the naked truth of it. So went in, again, revealing, sorry, this is what happened. Went in, and they have special training for this. Like, they are all, they have their, like, they are all suited up to go. Like, they, are all prepared. So they had a room that was specifically dedicated to that. So, got my, clothes off, laid down in the bed to my left side. The doctor, put, liquid in my, again, revealing, I probably shouldn't be revealing these details to you. But, did that. Didn't, get anything out because of that. Very, very disappointed that I didn't get anything out. But it wasn't a very, very strong, enema. I was going to probably be having another one that's going to be stronger. So, did that. Not eventful, changed back into my normal clothes, got in a gown and did all this stuff, put stuff on my feet or whatever, changed back after it was done. Waited around a little bit longer for the second part of the test. This was the more difficult one. Allow me to, I'm sorry if I'm not sparing you the details of this, but went into the room, where went into another room. There were a couple female doctors there. They explained to me what they were going to do. Basically, I was going to lay there and they were going to do like a rectal thing. They were going to put things, there and measure things out. And they would ask me to, and through the whole entire test, and they kind of explained to me beforehand, I was very, very nervous and very, very insecure about it. And I hope that they, it wasn't so serious. So they asked me pretend that you are holding in a bowel movement. And so I did that. And then pretend, for a certain amount of time. And then pretend that you're trying to push out something, stuff. And, I did that. So then they put like this balloon in there or something or other. They put kind of sensations in there, moisture. And, it would be like, I would need to go to the restroom, but it wasn't really, it wasn't really, meant for that I wouldn't really feel anything. with that. And then there was like a commode type thing sitting right by there. So, my, I brought wipes, for myself because I use those to, do this. So I used that to, and then when I sat on there, I did get, some a little bit out, which I was surprised by. So, cleaned that up and did all that, having insecurity about my, shirt being unclean. So I dealt with that later. But anyway, that was that test. Very, very tough. I just want to kind of give you a summary because I don't want to, I hope I'm not like overexposing in this. but this is just some episodes are going to be overexposing. Like they're just going to be like that. So I'm not going to limit the kind of content that I'm going to produce on this podcast. So, then the very, very last thing, and so what we did was, then we made the mistake by going, and I was feeling very, very, and basically, before those two tests, we went to just get coffee and get, a, like a cake type thing, with like a, raspberry type cake with like a, icing on it. It was very, very good. So, we sat there and, ate that before going into those two tests. The very, very final test for the day was just a, drawing blood, basically, doing that, which I had that a lot in the hospital, drawing the, and it was very, very continuous what they were doing that. So we sat in another place for a while. We waited a while and kind of Asian doctor came out, and we went into this room, and she kind of did the thing, and I was worried that it was gonna hurt or whatever, and it did take 9 to 10 minutes to get all the the blood drawn, but so that morning was very, very foggy, so we talked about that while she was doing it, and other modes of conversation. Then she did the procedures that she did for that, and then I was done for the day. So then we went to lunch that day, to the cafeteria, and very, very high-end cafeteria, white tables, almost kind of looked like DMAC. It had there were robots that would send the food out to tables. It was like these robots that were like cabinet counters that would just move around. And so I ordered a really, really good dish that day. I ordered like this teriyaki salmon dish. It was very, very good. There, again, another trivial detail of this. We got a what's it called? I'm trying to think. Like a pager for the table. Got that. The food came, ate it. Enjoyed that. Went back to the hotel. Did my video on Uranus and Gemini for the collective. Wasn't a very, very big video. Did that in the bedroom. I had to figure out kind of a place to record that. So, had dinner. Not going to spare you the details of that. The next day, trying to think, what Wednesday was like. I can't remember what Wednesday Wednesday exactly was like. I don't recall that detail. I don't recall what happened on Wednesday. I think I just went in for something very, very quickly on Wednesday, and then was like, yeah. I think I actually remember now. Okay, so Tuesday. Now I have it all in my head now. So Tuesday, woke up, in the, went to, work out in the weight room that day. The workout room didn't work out really with the headphones and everything that I had set up for that. But so anyway, went to, the, back to the same place, back to the same, room. The, waiting room that I was in the day before, sat down, answered all these questions about, like, do you feel, about questions dealing with psychological and social questions related to struggling with going to the restroom and all that. And so what happened then was, somebody called us in, that was a therapist for, a gastro-therapist, for working at the pelvic floor muscles, with the pelvic muscles. So we went in there, we sat in there, talked about, things, that involved that, and, one of the things is I feel very, very uncomfortable going in public restrooms because it's not the typical environment. I tend to hold it in, and we're told to go home. And she was like, well, just because you don't like that restroom, and you like the one at home better, doesn't mean you just hold everything in, because that's, unhealthy to do. She proceeded to explain to me that, the test that I took the day before, the muscles were very, very compressed, and I was squeezing them and I was holding them. And so a lot of it was about breathing when, going to the restroom, so that it would allow things to, come out more easily, and, everything like that. So that was what happened. And so then we got on a table. She, put kind of some, something else in my, there was like a term like, biochemistry. Something like that. I don't remember what it was. Basically, it was measuring my, my body's, it's basically what the thing was like in that part of my body. So, did that. It was not fun, but I could handle it and tolerate it. Then she kind of showed me, kind of, as she described, the world's most boring video game of a chart of, if I were to hold on to, like, pushing down and, trying to, go to the restroom or whatever, and seeing if the muscles would compress or open up. And if they would compress, then it would go up. If they would open up, it would go down. So, she kind of showed me that, suggested, just consciously working on several times throughout the day, breathing, taking a breath, practicing the breathing, and you'd think that you would go and hold in, really, really push, but it's actually, breathing can be more, I'll try to, see how that goes and see if she is right about that. So, we had that happen. I honestly have to say, she was, very, very, was an example of Virgo at the high road. Like, Virgo at the high road is very, very concerned about health and healing the body and being conscious about your health and focusing on certain details of your health and well-being in your life, but in a compassionate, understanding, kind way. And she was very, very compassionate and kind. She wasn't harping or judgmental or critical or, like anything like that. Like she wasn't that at all. She was, very, very, very honest in her delivery, but there was not an ounce of, negative criticism in her delivery. So she was very, very good at what, she said there. So anyway, actually, trying to think of if, I think this was actually Wednesday that we were doing this. I think that, okay, so Tuesday, we actually, okay, so I'm confusing you. Okay, I'm not getting this clear. So Tuesday was the day where I stayed home, or stayed at the hotel for the whole morning, and had to go down to the hotel in order to load videos up. It was very, very annoying. Went in for like an X-ray that afternoon. Went into like this room, changing things, and went back on. Took a shuttle around from the Gonda building, Mayo, to back to the hotel. So did that Tuesday, and then Wednesday is what I'm talking about here. So then went to lunch. I had like this pasta dish, really, really good, like tortellini with like broccoli. It was pretty good. Then we met with a gastro-psychologist that afternoon. How long is this? This is going to be long. Sorry. Met with a gastro-psychologist. Let me tell you. I was like, why can I have this therapist? This is the therapist that I like. Compassionate, non-judgmental, very, very easygoing, understood me perfectly fine, even though she just met me for the first time. And it was all about, balance. So I talked about, OCD and stuff like that, and all the kind of stuff, which I will not go into here. But she was very, very, compassionate, and said that I'm not alone in my fear of, cleanliness and all that. Told her about, several things, talked about breathing. I go on too long and just resetting myself, which I'll probably do, maybe. Talked, spoke, very, very good meeting, very, very, very understanding about that, very, compassionate, very, very kind, very, gentle person. So, that happened. Wednesday, where we met with her, and we were there for, until like 3 something or other in the afternoon. We didn't go for a very, very long, went for a very, very long time that afternoon. Basically, went home, and this whole time I was looking at, Donald Trump, And when I was back in the hotel room and all the crazy things that he has done recently, if you follow the news, like that post on social media that was about him, himself as Jesus, which was just crazy. Like, who would post an image of himself as Jesus? And wanting to build a, ballroom recently. Like, the White House is a historic White House for a reason. It is not your house. Like, honestly, the public is uneducated, and we need a leader who is responsible and right-minded, not politically, but logical and not has dementia and will think for the greater good and will take it seriously. So he's in there now, and let's hope and pray that the midterm elections this November will put roadblocks in his presidency and in him becoming president. It is just unbelievable to me that this man is president. And surely we should be more evolved by this. Back in 1944, when Dwight D. Eisenhower or Franklin D. Roosevelt, I think, was president, he was much more evolved than Donald Trump. In this day and age, is just unbelievable. Unbelievable, being able to get away with things, hide things, cover things up, a complete narcissist, being able to talk his way out of things and, lying and very, very insecure about himself, incredibly, because if he was, he wouldn't be doing all this. So, yeah, it's really, really tough. So, anyway, that's kind of a side note to this. But so, that Thursday, then, that was the day that I was very, very nervous about, because that was the day of the egg test. So I'm going to tell you how that went. We woke up that morning, we got on the shuttle, and there was this lady that had pink on and had, was older, white hair, pink, like a bandana, or not a bandana, but a thing on her head. You can make a cartoon out of her. You can make a cartoon out of her. She was so animated, so incredibly animated. Anyway, the bus was very, very full. She kept everybody going and very, very lively. So we went over there. Went into this room in another building, the Eisenhower building or something or other in Mayo. And went there, checked in. The smell wasn't very good at all. We didn't have long to wait at all for the doctor, a nurse to come in and then kind of explain to me I would take a capsule that would, make the food go through easier, and I would wait an hour before actually eating the food. So, she explained the capsule. My mom was not allowed to go back with me. I can't remember the details of what she was explaining. I would have to eat it within 10 minutes. Let me think here. What am I trying to say here? Eating it within 10 minutes. And so she would be able to substitute the, milk for lactose free. It was, oh my gosh. So waited for a little bit, listened to music, and did stuff, prepped for my video on the astrology of Mr. Beast, which I did. Did that while I was there, and then I went into the hospital room. Or not the hospital room, but okay, so I walked in this hallway. It was this room with tables in it, with a divided table, like a cubicle, or a thing where it would be like divided like a type thing. Trash can right by it. Oh, the smell. The smell. I mean, it was good but bad. It was like McDonald's. It was like, oh, the smell was just sickening. Didn't like the smell. Waited for a little bit and then they came in. Expected the eggs to be scrambled. But it basically the guy came in with gross. This is grossing me out. This grosses me out. Okay, like some people don't like pickles or vinegar or like my grandma. She really does not like garlic and onions. And some are really turned off by okra, for instance. Very, very skeptical with that. Or some people really, really do not like kimchi. I hate eggs. I hate them. Hate them. I cannot handle them. So, brought in this tray. Oh, it was sad. They couldn't substitute the eggs for anything else because it was the only food where this chemical would bind to the eggs. And it's like, what if you're a vegan? And what if your system cannot tolerate eggs? And what if you haven't gone without animal products in like 5 years? What are you supposed to do then? So, I guess I could have had the excuse that I was vegan. I guess I could have told the excuse that I was vegan, but I was willing to go into it because I thought it was just in my head. I thought it was just a mental thing that I didn't like eggs. But I had the tray set down. It was like the egg McMuffins you get at McDonald's. An egg, on a piece of like brown bread, not toasted, not cooked, just raw bread with the egg on top of it, and then milk. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, thinking about this is making me want to gag. All three of those food items were disgusting. Disgusting to me. Milk, I don't like eating milk. I don't like drinking milk on its own. Bread, it has to be toasted, and I don't like brown bread. Eggs, well, that's a definite no. The smell made me gag. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I do not know if I can do this. I was very, very hesitant to do this. I was like, oh, this is so against my values. This is so against my better judgment. So against what I believe in. So against what I like. What happened was I took a bite. Very, very small bite of the bread and then the egg. As soon as I put it in my mouth, disgusting. Disgusting. The taste was just, gross beyond belief. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I do not have the guts and the willingness to do a thing like that. Oh my gosh, if I consumed that, it would probably make me lose the will to, eat eggs again. And I was so worried that eating that would. I would just, I should, my mom should have just told them, he really, really hates eggs and he can't stand them and, cannot eat them and tolerate them. And, that is the reality. I cannot tolerate eating eggs. Literally, it makes me gag. It makes me sick to eat them. They are so gross. So gross. Incredibly gross. Because of the chemical in them that makes them smell like, unpleasantness. They are disgusting. So if there's one thing that you want to know about I am not a picky person about food at all. I am so not picky, but eggs is one of the very few foods that I absolutely detest. Detest, I'm telling you. So, I was like, I cannot do this. And I didn't have a timer to know, like, when the thing would go off. And I was like, I cannot do this. And I just said, I'm not doing this. I am not doing this. I'm not putting myself through something that I cannot do. Like, with food, if I don't like it, I will not put it in my mouth. If I don't like the food, then I won't put it in my mouth. Now, you know, I'm getting to that later, but, basically, the only reason I was doing it because for testing. But I couldn't do it. So the doctor came in, and I just told her, I cannot do this. I cannot go through with this. And I was so relieved when she said, that's okay, we'll take a couple pictures of you anyway, that's fine. It did kind of, hinder the testing a little bit, but I was like, it is not worth anything in the world for me to eat this, because I will not eat something that I hate, okay? No, there's not enough hunger that I can have to make me want to eat something like that, that I hate. So, I didn't do it. Because I couldn't do it. I was like, I was coming up against a roadblock. I was coming up against a wall with myself. Like, I cannot get past the wall. I cannot do this. So anyway, went in, got, a couple pictures, stood in front of this, stood in this machine with, like, the two sides of it, what do you call it? Okay, so I went into this room with this machine. There were these two sides of it. I would stand in the middle of it, and they would compress on me, and then my body would give them information on, what's going through my belly with all that, through those tests. So it was really smooth sailing from there, from then on. So, and then I got the test that day. You don't have to put yourself through something that you just can't do, that you just don't value, even if it's for medical tests, and even if it is at Mayo. Like, be honest with yourself. Like, if you can't do it, don't put yourself through it. Like, it's not worth your lack of peace. Like, I am a Taurus North Node. I deserve to eat the foods that I like to eat. Like, I don't have to eat off the buffet of life. I can say, I can pick this food, these other foods I don't like, other people can eat. Like, the North Node in Taurus is not a North Node that indicates crisis and trauma and tough situations this lifetime. That was I went through a lot of intensity in past lives with my South Node in Scorpio. A lot of really intense experiences. This life is about peace and stability and security. And my soul is like, I just want to head in this direction fully. So, know your values. Know what you value when it comes to what you can do and what you can't. And to know yourself very, very well, what you can do and what you can't do. Be very, very strong in yourself with what you value and live from that place of living from your values, living a life according to those values, and not going through with things that are not aligned with those values. That's what I'm basically saying here. Now, am I going to be the perfect example of that? I don't think so. But, I will try my best to do that. The silver lining with the test was, okay, well, now it's official. I really don't like eggs. No, I hate eggs. I'll eat them in, shakshuka or vegetable fried rice or, quiche, but I will not eat them on their own. And so that confirmed and that validated, and now I know myself better because of the test, because now I know, I officially don't like eggs because of that test. So I was incredibly skeptical going into it, and I could do it, and I didn't do it. And it's not weak, it's not giving up, it's not about giving up, it's about doing what you can and knowing what you cannot do, and just being true to yourself. Being true to yourself, and sometimes the best thing is just not to do it. The best thing is not to do it. And so smooth sailing from then on out. Went to, basically waited a while. I had to eat basically at, 11:55 for 10 minutes, had to eat a turkey sandwich with, turkey on a, just brown bread with, Jell-O and, water, which wasn't very, very good, but ate it, spoke with my, mom while doing that, so that helped. Not ideal. I don't like, just turkey sandwiches, but I could do it. I could handle it. It didn't taste very good, but I could get it down. I could handle that. I could tolerate that. I couldn't tolerate the breakfast. If you would even call it breakfast. So, basically, the whole time I was, thinking about, Mr. Beast, because I was making that video that day, which you can go check out. There's a very, very interesting video, and I would really, really go check out the content on his channel, because it is, oh my gosh, I really, really go into it. It's just amazing how much following that he has on his channels, and, it's just unbelievable. It really, really is unbelievable. Yeah, so I go into that on those videos. Friday, and by the way, the day that I was going, to the, to do this test, the bus was crowded, and, it was actually, okay. So Wednesday was, that way, and then Thursday was the day where it was really, really crowded, and we barely got a seat. It was a wonder that we got a seat. But so then Friday, we went in very, very briefly for another test. Basically, I couldn't be on my medications. I couldn't have alcohol or caffeine during those tests. Got another test Friday. The same test where I stood in the middle and it would come in, and then that was it for the day, and then I had the whole rest of the day off at the hotel. Did the video on the nodes, the north and south node, published that. I could, publish videos faster with that. I reduced down the resolution quality on the CyberLink. So then did that. My dad came back yesterday evening. This morning we did the final test. The final check this morning. Very, very cold this morning. We walked in the streets. It was, to get to where we needed to go, because things didn't operate on Saturdays. That's a good thing we didn't, go to anywhere on Saturdays, because the shuttle doesn't run on Saturdays. But so, kind of sanitizer on my hands real quick. So, all right. So, then, basically went back to the hotel room, packed up, got everything packed up. I got some things downloaded. We went to, out to eat. We went to a sushi place today for lunch. Very, very good sushi place. Went home. And then, here we are. So, that was the experience of Mayo that I just wanted to cover in this rather long podcast episode. That is that experience. I may go back there again for just some more, therapy or something going on with that. I'm going to be receiving the results back for that on Monday and see what the doctors have to say. I'm nervous. I'm very, very nervous about those tests, but they're not fazed by it because they've seen it all, so we shall see how that goes on Monday, April 20th. That is it for tonight, everybody. That is really all that I have on this episode of the Real Me podcast. Tune in for tomorrow's episode on Saturn in Aries on my Cosmic Sky podcast. So tune in for that episode there. I'm going to start the Saturn series tomorrow and get back to my normal recording schedule tomorrow when it comes to podcast episodes. Maybe I'll try to put words in the actual picture of them so that you see the writing in there. Maybe I'll try to do that if I can, then just insert it into the editing software that I use, because I want to try to do that. Maybe sometime I'll create my own thumbnails sometime. But I'll do that. And tomorrow I'll do my episode. Basically have a chill day tomorrow. Doing whatever I want to do the rest of the afternoon, and that's all. And getting back to pulling oracle cards, doing videos, once a day, and then having the rest of the day just read, listen to music, listen to podcasts, do whatever I want to do. So, tune in for that tomorrow. Anyway, that is all that I have. Hope that you enjoyed this story, and if you relate to this story, if you've been to Mayo, I'd like to hear your experience being at Mayo in the comment section below. Hopefully this video will get, a lot of views based off of the category that I will be putting it in. Hopefully it's the right category for the video to be in. So we shall see how many views the video gets in this case. We shall see the progress of my channel from this point forward, how it grows. So anyway, that's all, everybody. Tune in for tomorrow. I want to put out some songs. One song about Mr. Beast, another song about I'm singing The Good Parts by Andy Graham, and then another song about YouTube growth channels, which I want to do and why I disapprove of them. So those are just my 3 ideas. So I want to post in my Music of Everett Curdy podcast / album, sometime very, very soon here. So I may very well do that. So anyway, enough talking. I've talked enough. I'm just done talking. I just want to relax. That's all for now, everybody. Bye for now. Bye for now, everybody. Have a good night.